I drove 6 hours to surprise my wife at her medical conference in Chicago. I had a bouquet of her favorite white lilies resting on the passenger seat and a small gold box of dark chocolate truffles from the specialty shop downtown tucked carefully beside them. I'd even made a dinner reservation at the little Italian restaurant where we'd had our first date 10 years ago, the place where she'd laughed at my nervous rambling and told me she liked that I was awkward. I walked into the Hilton lobby with a stupidly hopeful grin, ready to ask what room Dr. Sarah Mitchell was staying in, and imagining the look on her face when she saw me. The clerk behind the front desk typed her name into the computer, paused, then smiled brightly. "Ah, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, room 812. Would you like me to call up and let her know you're here?" My hand stopped halfway to my wallet. "I'm sorry," I said carefully. "What name?" "Johnson," she repeated, still cheerful, still unaware she'd just detonated something in my chest. "They checked in yesterday afternoon. Is there a problem?" I stared at her, trying to process the words. My wife's maiden name is Mitchell. Professionally, she still uses it. Her legal married name is Carson, my name. So who exactly was Mrs. Johnson? "No," I said slowly, forcing my expression to remain neutral. "No problem. Don't call. I'll surprise her." "Of course." She handed me a key card. "Enjoy your stay, Mr. Johnson." Mr. Johnson. I took the elevator to the 8th floor with flowers in one hand, chocolates in the other, and a growing, nauseating pressure in my chest that felt like something was tightening around my ribs. When I stepped into the hallway, the air felt heavier. Room 812 was near the end. I stood outside it for a full minute, just listening. There were voices inside. A man's voice, deep, relaxed, comfortable. Then hers. "We should just order room service," she said lightly. "I don't want to leave this room all weekend." I slid the key card into the lock. The light flashed green. I pushed the door open. If you want to know what I saw when that door swung wide, hit subscribe, because what happened in the next 60 seconds didn't just end my marriage, it exposed a lie that had been running for 3 years. My name is Daniel Carson. I'm 38 years old and I teach high school history in Indianapolis. I drive a 2015 Subaru Outback with a faded Coexist bumper sticker my wife stuck on there as a joke because she said it fit my personality. I wear khakis and button-down shirts. I stay late grading essays about the Civil War. I make dad jokes in class, even though I'm not a dad yet. I'm not flashy. I'm not exciting, but I'm consistent, dependable, loyal. I thought that counted for something. My wife, Sarah, is the opposite of me in almost every way. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, though legally she's Sarah Carson, is an ER physician at St. Vincent Hospital. She thrives on chaos, 12-hour shifts, trauma bays, split-second decisions. She comes home smelling faintly of antiseptic and exhaustion, telling stories about gunshot victims and cardiac arrests and the rare moments when someone who should have died walks out alive. She's brilliant, driven, magnetic. For 10 years, I believed we balanced each other. She was the intensity. I was the calm. She was motion. I was stability. Looking back, that balance wasn't as even as I thought. The medical conferences started about 3 years ago. "I need to keep up my CME credits," she explained one evening while we were eating takeout on the couch. "Continuing medical education. It's mandatory." "Where's the next one?" I asked. "Chicago. Trauma Medicine Symposium. 3 days." "Want me to come?" I offered. "We could turn it into a little trip." She hesitated just slightly before smiling. "It's packed with sessions, networking dinners. I'd feel bad leaving you alone all day." "I don't mind." "I know you don't." She reached across the coffee table and squeezed my hand. "This is work. Let me focus. When I get back, we'll plan something just for us." It sounded reasonable, logical. I trusted her completely. The conferences became routine. Every few months, another city. Chicago, Denver, Boston, Atlanta, always 3 or 4 days.
always intense, always solo. "How was it?" I asked when she returned. "Exhausting," she'd say, dropping her bag by the door, "but good. I learned a lot." She'd unpack conference tote bags stuffed with branded pens and pamphlets, show me her badge, introduce me to new names she'd met. Everything looked legitimate, structured, professional. But there were moments that didn't sit right. She came back from Denver in February with a faint tan. "The hotel had a rooftop pool," she explained. "I caught some sun between sessions." During the Boston trip, I called one night and heard music pounding in the background. "Where are you?" "A networking event," she said quickly. "It's at a bar. I'll call you later." When she returned from Atlanta, she smelled faintly of cologne, not her perfume, something sharper. "One of the keynote speakers hugged everyone," she laughed. "Very touchy European guy." Each time I dismissed the unease, told myself not to be insecure, told myself trust was a choice. The Chicago conference this year was supposed to be the biggest yet. 4 days, she said while packing, major symposium, speakers from Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic. "This is huge." "I'm proud of you," I said sincerely. She kissed me at the door. "I'll call every night." She left Thursday morning. That first night she called, described the opening keynote, the panels, the hotel. Everything sounded normal, yet something in her voice felt distant, like she was reciting rather than sharing. By Friday night, I couldn't shake the restlessness. I lay in our bed staring at the ceiling, the house quiet around me. I scrolled through our text thread. "Miss you. Miss you too. Long day. Heading to bed. Love you. Love you." The words were there, the warmth wasn't. At 2 in the morning, I made the decision. I was going to surprise her. Saturday, I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. I packed an overnight bag, grabbed the anniversary flowers I'd bought early, picked up her favorite chocolates, and programmed the Hilton Chicago into my GPS. 6 hours. The drive felt endless. I told myself it was romantic, that she'd laugh and call me crazy and kiss me in the lobby. I insisted to myself that this wasn't about suspicion, but deep down, I knew it was. I arrived in Chicago mid-afternoon, fought traffic, parked 2 blocks away. The Hilton loomed massive and polished, marble floors and towering ceilings. Signs pointed towards the Midwest Trauma Medicine Symposium, so the conference was real. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by embarrassment. What was I doing? Still, I approached the front desk.
"My wife's here for the conference," I said. "I wanted to surprise her. Could you tell me her room number?" "Name?" "Sarah Mitchell, or Sarah Carson." The clerk typed, frowned, typed again. "I'm not seeing those names." My stomach dropped. "Let me try something else," she said. "Oh, here we go. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, room 812. The world seemed to tilt sideways. "Johnson?" "Yes, sir. Would you like me to call them?" "My wife's name is Mitchell. My name is Carson. Who the hell is Johnson?" "No," I said, my voice distant to my own ears. "Don't call. I'll surprise her." She handed me the key card. "Enjoy your stay, Mr. Johnson." I stood there holding that card like it was evidence in a trial. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. I rode the elevator up in a daze, watching the numbers light up one by one. My mind scrambled for explanations. A booking error, a privacy alias, anything. The 8th floor hallway was quiet, carpet patterned in muted tones, lights dim and warm. Room 812 sat at the end. I stood outside and listened. A man's laugh. Hers layered over it. "We should order room service," he said. "I don't want to leave this room all weekend." She laughed. "God, yes, I'm starving." I looked down at the flowers, at the chocolates, at the hope I'd carried across state lines. I slid the key card into the lock. The light blinked green. I pushed the door open. The suite was larger than I expected. King bed, city skyline visible through floor-to-ceiling windows, 2 glasses of wine on the nightstand,
clothes draped carelessly over a chair. On the bed, sitting cross-legged in a white hotel robe, was my wife. Next to her, also wearing a robe, was a man I had never seen before. Mid-40s, athletic build, streaks of gray at his temples. They were laughing at something on his phone. The sound died the second they saw me. Sarah's face changed in an instant. Confusion, recognition, shock, fear, then guilt. Daniel. The man looked at me, then at her. Who's Daniel? I stood in the doorway, flowers in one hand, chocolates in the other, and felt my entire world cave inward. I'm her husband, I said. The man's face drained of color. Her what? Sarah stood up quickly, clutching the robe tighter around her. Daniel, what are you doing here? Surprising you, I said. My voice sounded calm, distant, like it belonged to someone else. At your conference. I can explain. Can you? I looked at the man. Who are you? He stood up slowly. My name is Richard. Richard Johnson. Johnson. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. How long? I asked Sarah. Daniel, please. How long? She closed her eyes. 3 years. The number hit like a fist. 3 years. Every conference, every city, every time she came home with stories about keynote speakers and networking events. All of it lies. Richard Johnson looked like he might throw up. You told me you were divorced. Sarah's eyes snapped to him. Richard, you said you were divorced 2 years ago. You said you kept your ex-husband's last name professionally, but you were done. You said, I know what I said. You're married? His voice rose. You're married? I almost laughed. Almost. Yeah, 10 years. Didn't she mention that? He looked at her like she was a stranger. Sarah, what the hell? Both of us, I said quietly. She lied to both of us. The room went silent. Sarah stood there trapped between the two men in her life, the husband who didn't know, the boyfriend who didn't know. I need to explain, she started. Don't, I said. Don't insult me with explanations. Daniel, please. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I looked at Richard. How did you two meet? He was still staring at Sarah like she'd grown a second head. At a conference 3 years ago. Chicago. Let me guess. She told you she was single. Divorced, he corrected. She said she'd just gotten out of a bad marriage. I nodded. And you believed her. Why wouldn't I? Because you wanted to, I said. Same reason I believed her when she said these were work trips. Sarah's voice cracked. I never meant for this to happen. Which part? I asked. The affair? The lies? The fake name at the front desk? All of it. She was crying now. I didn't plan this. It just happened. For 3 years. I didn't know how to stop. Richard sat down on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. I can't believe this. Join the club, I said. Sarah wiped her eyes. Richard, I'm sorry. I should have told you. Should have told me? He looked up. You let me fall in love with you. You let me introduce you to my daughter. You talked about moving in together. That one hit me. You were going to move in with him? I don't know. Maybe. I hadn't decided. Hadn't decided? My voice finally broke. Sarah, we're married. We own a house. We have a life. I know. Do you? I stepped closer. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes. She was sobbing now. I know I'm a terrible person. I know you're not terrible, I said quietly. You're a coward. Richard stood up, started getting dressed. Jeans, t-shirt, shoes. Where are you going? Sarah asked. Away from you. Sarah, please don't. He grabbed his wallet, his phone. I don't know who you are. I thought I did, but I don't. He walked past me to the door, stopped, turned back. For what it's worth, he said to me, I didn't know. If I'd known she was married, I never would have. I know, I said. He nodded once, then he left. The door closed behind him with a soft click. And then it was just me and Sarah. She sat down on the bed, still crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I set the flowers down on the dresser, the chocolates next to them. I drove 6 hours to surprise you. I bought your favorite things. I made a reservation at Spia, the restaurant where we had our first date. She looked up. Daniel, I was going to propose we start trying for kids. Her face crumpled. I had this whole speech planned about how proud I am of you, how lucky I am, how ready I am to start the next chapter. I pulled out my phone, showed her the Notes app, the speech I'd written during the drive. She read it through tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. Why? I asked. Just tell me why. She took a shaky breath. You're a good man, Daniel. You're kind and steady and safe. But I'm not. She looked at me. I'm not steady.
I'm not safe. I'm chaos. And you? You're so calm, so patient, so boring. There it was, the truth. I'm boring? I repeated. I didn't mean, yes, you did. I sat down in the chair by the window. I'm the guy who grades papers and coaches basketball and makes dad jokes. I'm predictable, reliable, boring. You're a good man, she said again, just not an exciting one. She didn't deny it. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, I stood up. I'm going home. Daniel, wait! No. I picked up my overnight bag. I'm done waiting. I've been waiting for 10 years for you to love me the way I love you. I'm done. I do love you. No. I said you love the idea of me, the safety, the stability, but you don't love me. She started to argue, stopped because we both knew it was true. I'll have my lawyer contact you. You're divorcing me? You're surprised? I thought maybe we could work through this. I stared at her. Sarah, you've been living a double life for 3 years. You registered at this hotel as Mrs. Johnson. You were planning a future with another man while sleeping in our bed. I know, but there's no but. I opened the door. We're done. I drove home in the dark, 6 hours back alone. No radio, no podcasts, just silence and highway lights. I thought about the last 10 years, the moments I'd treasured, the memories I'd built. How many of them were real? How many were just me believing what I wanted to believe? I pulled into our driveway at 2 a.m., walked into our house, our empty house, sat on the couch in the dark, and for the first time since I was a kid, I cried. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Reeves. She came recommended by a teacher at my school who'd gone through a divorce 2 years earlier. Tell me what happened, she said. I told her all of it. The conference, the hotel, the fake name, the 3 years of lies. She took notes, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she looked up. Do you have proof of the affair? Yes. I pulled out my phone, showed her the photos I'd taken in the hotel room. Sarah and Richard. The robes, the rumpled bed. This is good, Patricia said. Indiana is a no-fault state, but adultery can still impact things like alimony and asset division. I don't care about the money, I said. I just want out. I understand, but you should care. You're entitled to a fair settlement." "Fine, whatever. Just make it fast." She nodded. "I'll draft the papers. You'll need to decide how you want to handle the house." "She can have it." "Mr. Carson, I don't want it," I said. "I don't want anything that reminds me of her." The papers were served a week later. Sarah called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. She texted, "Please, we need to talk." I replied, "Talk to my lawyer." She showed up at the house. I didn't let her in. She showed up at my school. Security walked her out. Finally, she stopped trying. The divorce took 4 months. We sold the house, split the proceeds. She kept her car, I kept mine. She kept her retirement accounts, I kept mine. No alimony, no drama, just done. The day the papers were finalized, I sat in my new apartment, a 1-bedroom in Broad Ripple, and felt nothing. Not relief, not sadness, just empty. 6 months later, I ran into Richard Johnson. It was random, a coffee shop in downtown Indy. I was grading papers. He walked in, saw me, froze. "Daniel." "Richard." He hesitated, then walked over. "Can I sit?" "Free country." He sat, ordered a coffee. We sat in awkward silence. "I'm sorry," he finally said, "for my part in everything. You didn't know. I should have asked more questions. We both should have." He nodded. "For what it's worth, I ended things with her that night after you left." "Good." She tried to explain, said she was confused, said she loved both of us. I laughed bitter. She didn't love either of us. She loved the attention. "Yeah." He sipped his coffee. "I wasted 3 years on her. I wasted 10. We sat with that. "You seem like a good guy," Richard said. "I'm sorry you got hurt." "You too." He stood, extended his hand. "Take care of yourself." I shook it. "You too." He left. I went back to grading papers. A year later, I met someone new. Her name was Emily. She taught English at my school. Divorced, no kids, loved hiking and terrible reality TV. We started slow. Coffee, then dinner, then a weekend trip to Brown County. She knew about Sarah. I told her everything. "That's awful," she said. "I'm sorry." "It's in the past." "Is it?" I thought about that. "Getting there." She smiled. "Good, because I like you, Daniel Carson, and I don't want to compete with a ghost." "You won't," I promised. 2 years after the divorce, I got a text from an unknown number. "This is Sarah. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better. I hope you're happy." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger, not out of spite, just because I didn't need it anymore. People ask me sometimes if I regret the surprise, if I wished I'd stayed home, stayed ignorant, stayed in the comfortable lie. I don't, because the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a beautiful lie. I drove 6 hours to surprise my wife, and I got the biggest surprise of my life. But I also got my freedom. If you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever had your world turned upside down by the truth, if you've ever had to rebuild from nothing, this one's for you. Comment "survived" if this hit home. Hit subscribe for more real stories about the moment everything changes, because sometimes the worst day of your life is the first day of your real life, and that's worth more than any lie.